Welcome, welcome. It is another Wednesday. It is 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which means, you know what that means? That means it's time for the Secure the Bag Book Club to meet on YouTube. What Brooks spent. So excited for this yet another round of conversation about acquiring assets, which is what I talk about on my page. And yeah, frankly, I don't really get a kick out of talking about all the negatives, right? Like debt, credit. No, no, no. I want to talk about income generating assets. I want to talk about long term wealth. I want to talk about protecting that wealth when I'm doing it. So that is why I started this page so that I could talk about those things. That is why I started this book club so that we could talk about different kinds of assets. So far, we've talked about acquiring art. We've talked about securing intellectual property. We've talked about stock market investing. We've even talked about tax planning. And now we're talking about real estate. I am so excited to have this conversation about the next couple of chapters. Last week, we talked about chapters 1 and 2, and now we're on 3 and 4 of the book, How to Invest in Real Estate, The Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Getting Started. And it is by Joshua Dorkin and Brandon Turner. Now, for the record, I am not an expert. I am not a guru. What I am is someone who is showing that self-education translates into wealth building. So we have talked about all these different assets and things like that so that we can talk about growing and protecting our wealth. So if you're tuning in live, go ahead and shout yourself out in the chat so that I can shout you out live. Would love to, give you a big thumbs up of, yay, you came. So yes, definitely go ahead and give me that thumbs up. I titled today's stream as, this chapter really got me motivated. The real estate is really getting me motivated. And I'm going to explain why in just a few minutes. Because the start of chapter 3, literally the chapter is called Get Your Ducks in a Row, Getting Your Ducks in a Row. And I'm not one to have my ducks out of a row. I mean, I am budgeting, I am planning, I am stewarding my, assets, my funds, all that good stuff. I am preparing. And that's what this is all about. This is about readiness, right? So when you get that promotion, when you have that windfall, when you get that inheritance, you are able to do something with your, windfall, if you will. So yes, let's get into it without further ado. So the chapter 3, we're on chapter 3 and 4 of the book this week, Getting Your Ducks in a Row. It talked about it just kind of told you to get out your own way. Don't be nervous, commit, start participating in, network and get yourself out there, learn the different concepts, learn the lingo, watch others if you can. And eventually all of that is going to help you overcome what's called analysis paralysis. And it's a lovely, fun way of saying, stop overthinking and just, take action, get in there, right? So I love that. I love that it started with that, but then it really gets to the good stuff around page 84. So on 84, it talked about assembling your real estate team. First of all, I did a video on TikTok at the top of the year about like relationship goals for 2026. And my relationship goals for 2026 includes things like an accountant, a tax advisor, an attorney. What else? What other things are there? Like just all kinds of, a financial advisor, like all those kinds of roles and professionals that can be in your orbit and on your contact list as you are generating wealth, right? So on page 84 and 85, it talks about getting a mentor, getting a partner, if that's what you want to do with your real estate empire, right? Getting a realtor in your contact list, a property manager, if that's, the route that you want to take if you don't want to self-manage your properties, a mortgage broker or a loan officer. So, a mortgage banker, right? Getting a professional that is in charge of lending, real estate attorney, escrow officer, or title rep, accountant, insurance agent, okay, and a contractor. Oh, and then it says at the end, like supportive friends and family, which I thought was hilarious because, like, when you think about people that are in real estate, like of them, like are their friends and family really, especially the bold ones, the ones that are like, I'm 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 gonna take it there. I'm going to get, as many doors as will have me. I don't think they have a lot of support from their friends and family, but that's been just been my experience. You guys can let me know in the comments how y'all feel about supportive friends and family on your team. Yeah. And a great handyman is the other person that they said can be in your real estate team. And then it starts. This sentence I loved. It's on page 86 in chapter 3. It says, a great team member should exhibit certain traits which are sometimes difficult to see on the surface, but can be witnessed through longer conversations and via referrals from others. How many of us are looking at the fruit of the labor and the work and the relationships and the reputation of the people that are in our orbit, in our circle of influence, in our contacts where we're trying to make the deal happen, make those moves, right? That's why I said, that's why I titled this one, it really motivated me because I was like, oh, if I was looking to like invest in real estate, I have my realtor from when, I have not, let me back up and tell y'all, I own my house. It's a townhouse and it cost me, I bought in, let me tell y'all my real estate story because I don't think I told y'all. So in 2019, there I was in an apartment and I had beef with my neighbors and it was my fault. It was just that they played their music extra loud and it was like in the middle of the night and I just was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't live like this. I can't live like this. So what I ended up doing was thinking, maybe I'll like find something in another place. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll buy a house or, something, small, just me, and I did not have much saved. I might have had $1,000, $2,000 saved at the time, but I was determined to get a house. And I was like, surely there are programs out there for first time home buyers like myself. And sure enough, there were. I'm going to tell y'all more about my relationship with my lender in subsequent videos. But just know that I did not have, the typical advice of, 20% down or, 5% of the purchase of the house in closing costs. No, that's not how it happened. In fact, I got grants to cover part of the closing costs for me. So there are options out there. And I definitely want you guys to explore them as you are building relationships, as you are assembling your real estate team. That is what you want to consider is the fruit of the root. Hello. And then it talked on, so the next part was about partnerships and whether you should go at it with a partner, a business partner in your real estate journey. And of course it came with some pros, right? So like pooling resources, division of the labor, expanding your network, accountability, all those wonderful things, right? Which sounds good at the outset, but then you start going to the cons and it's like, ooh, you could have like personality differences and you aren't sharing you aren't getting as many profits because you're sharing the profits. Trust issues, delayed decision making. So you really have to think through whether a partnership is for you, whether you're cut out for a partnership. Those are all things that you have to consider. And then on page 91, I wanted to highlight this part. Well, in fact, I did highlight this part, but I wanted to like lift it up for your consideration. It says, plan ahead. Make sure the arrangement is written, well planned, and includes an operating agreement to detail the roles and responsibilities, capital contributions, which just means the money that you're putting into the deal, profit, splits, and the exit strategies. Those are all absolutely things that you need to be considering when you're making, when you're considering being a part of a partnership, a real estate partnership. And in general, you can, get some sound advice about partnerships in general, like, just relationships or whatever, from this section on real estate partnership pros and cons. So highly recommend that section. Then I started the thinking, and let me know if you guys are tuning in live. Go ahead and shout yourself out in the chat. So it talked about getting a mentor, and not only are you benefiting from the relationship, right? And just, kind of saying, oh, can I take, can I get, in front of someone who knows their stuff, and all I want to do is, get just take advantage of them. No, that's not what we're doing. When we have a mentor, we are giving and taking, right? So they are giving us, a sound foundational education as it relates to the lessons they've learned, the ways that they've gone about doing things, their systems, their protocols, they're all those kinds of things, even, opening up their book of relationships to you, right? But in return, you should be, contributing something like, if you have time to help them with things. What does it say? It says, do you have a free weekend that you can offer to help clean up a vacant unit? Do you have web design skills? What can you offer the other person you want to learn from? That's ultimately what we're considering, right? Are we being valuable, and is that relationship ultimately valuable to you, right? So yes, again, provide value to your mentor. Work hard and study and do things on the outside of just that relationship so that you can, contribute in a meaningful way to the relationship, to the dynamic. Okay. Then I want to, they talked about the legal structures, because you've heard possibly about getting a real estate company off the ground by opening, filing for an LLC or a corporation. Like you have the S corporation and the C corporation. So it goes into detail about that. I won't go into detail on this broadcast because you can read it for yourself. But ultimately, they do mention the fact that, like, are you really like trying to protect yourself legally, which is good, because again, we are growing and protecting our wealth. Okay. Or are you just doing it because you're procrastinating? Like, oh, well, I don't have a legal entity, so I can't start investing in real estate. Not an excuse. Not a good excuse anyways. Okay. So then chapter 4, it talks all about real estate investment niches. I say niches, but you can say niches if you want. I won't judge. So there are a number of flavors as it relates to the real estate game, right? There is everything from the very raw land that you are, vacant lots, right? You see them all the time, right? Land for sale, et cetera. It signs up like that. Just the raw land that is an option as far as investing in real estate. Single family houses are the biggie, right? That's the one we all know about, like, standalone houses that have, no connection to other units. And those are considered single family houses. Okay. And then the next one is small multifamily units. That is your duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes, also known as quads. So if you think of like the house that is, split in half, and one's, unit A, one is unit B, you've seen them before, I'm sure. There's less of them, less inventory, which also might mean that it's not as crowded a market. So it is possible that could be something that you'd be interested in investing in, if you feel like the single family homes is a little too competitive in your market. Then there's also the large multifamily units that can be anything from a fiveplex all the way up to a 500 unit, A class is what they called it, like apartment kind of building or complex or whatever. And then of course it has commercial. No, no, no. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Commercial real estate. That's for when your shopping malls, those kinds of plazas and everything. Um, if you're trying to provide real estate for businesses, I love it mentioned. Oh, where is it? Oh my gosh. It said so. It mentioned things like if you had like barber shops, gyms, nail salons, restaurants, liquor stores, drive-through coffee shops. Those are all vendors that would then be the lease holders, not holders, but the lease tenants, I guess. Anyways, um in your units as it relates to commercial real estate. So that one was really cool to see as well. And then, of course, they have mobile homes and mobile home parks, private notes, which I didn't really quite understand. I think I'm going to have to do some more research into that one. REITs, which are it stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. Basically, those are stocks, real estate stocks. That's the basics of that one. And then, of course, crowdfunding, which I've looked into myself. I've looked into possible, options as it relates to crowdfunding because there's been, people that have set up crowdfunding platforms that are specifically for real estate and they invest in either the debt side or the equity side of the deal. And that is where you're seeing your returns from. Okay. So those are the options. Those are the flavors. I love it. I do. I am really like zoning in on. So I mentioned that I'm motivated. And one of the things I'm motivated about is those relationships, right? I have a relationship with my realtor from when I first bought my house in 2019. And there is another woman that is in real estate that is at my job. And then I work at a bank and she just does it as a side thing. She's licensed as a real estate agent. And then the last person that I know of in real estate is, Lucy. Lucy, if you ever watch this, I want to talk to you, girl. So Lucy is this girl from my high school. Yes, I graduated in 2007, so whatever. Don't I'm first of all, I look young for my age. Anyways, no, no, no. So anyway, she's just a pro at like I feel like everything business related, and she just knows the ins and outs of things. And I really want to connect with Lucy. She was like a year older than me, maybe 2 years older than me in high school. And ever since then, I've kind of followed her journey with all kinds of different assets and stuff like that. She's been talking lately about buying precious metals and jewelry and stuff like that, so like gold and silver and like the price of gold and silver. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need you on my team, I need you on my side, I need you in my like orbit. Yes. So I'm going to talk to Lucy. So anyway, those are the people that I'm interested in talking to. Who are you ready to talk to in your network of people that you might know, that you might be like, hey, I got a question about real estate, can you like enlighten me about how you did XYZ thing? And that might lead to a conversation because people love to talk about the things that they've done in business. They love to talk about how they wheeled and dealed and did it up or whatnot. They love to talk to newbies because they were once beginners. So yeah, I feel like that is the way to go as it relates to starting to build your relationships and start to building your network and start to build your professional team real estate wise. There you go. Okay, people, we've come to the end of chapter 4 and we are moving on to chapter 5 and 6. If you are following along at home, reading the book with us, again, it is How to Invest in Real Estate, the Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Getting Started by Joshua Dorkin and Brandon Turner. They're of Bigger Pockets fame. So yeah, if you are following along, the link to the schedule is www.whatbrooksspent.com. www.spotify.com/events. It's also in the description. And then the Spotify premium playlist is available. The link is in the description as well. And that is a link to a audiobook playlist of all the books that we've covered so far. So if you're just like, okay, I want to, key in on past broadcasts and I want to, see what they were talking about. I want to read along and whatnot. That is the way to go. Okay. All right, party people, make sure that you are following along on all my platforms. You can see them on the links on my page. And as usual, make sure you tell the others. I will talk to you next time.